Hello and welcome. This is Zero Limits Living. Every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. This show has become so popular so quickly, you can now see it or hear it on 1,000 different platforms around the galaxy. And that includes Amazon and Apple TV and Roku and YouTube and probably anything you could mention. To make it easy for you, I'm putting all the sites on one website. It's at zerolimitlivingtv.com. Zerolimitlivingtv.com. You could even sign up there to get an email alert when there's a new episode posted, so you don't miss any of this good stuff. Also, I want to invite you to check out my Miracles Coaching Program. I started it 20 some years ago, trademarked it, and it has been proven to work. It is a system that's already been tested. I want to invite you to go and have a free consultation. Go get your questions asked. Go to miraclescoaching.com and check it out, miraclescoaching.com. And then I am a creator and I have a new product and it's doing so well, I'm kind of bragging about it and I want you to know about it. It is something about using mental time travel to change your past, to empower your present, and create your new future. And it's exciting. So if this sparks any interest at all, go to mentaltimetravelsystem.com, mentaltimetravelsystem.com. And now to the juicy stuff. I have a guest here who's become a friend of mine. He interviewed me on his show, and it's my turn to interview him because he's come out with a book that is pretty amazing. Let me tell you who I'm interviewing here, who you're going to meet. Karl Gruber is a former professional radio disc jockey, copywriter, and producer. He's now a podcaster, and he's hosting his own show, World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment. He's been doing it since 2018. He's done over 90 episodes so far and more coming. For the last 10 years, he's been a practicing law of attraction life coach. He was certified by Christy Whitman, who I interviewed on this show a while back, in her Quantum Success Coaching Academy. And Karl's he's a huge student of non-dualistic spirituality. He's mainly focused on what's called a Course in Miracles, which is pretty famous. We'll talk about it a little bit in case you don't know what that is. But Karl's published a book, and that book is called True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. Here it is, right here in my hands. And it's the subtitle is A Beautiful Symbiotic Relationship, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. This guy is full of surprises, but I'm also going to surprise him because he doesn't know what I'm going to ask. He's probably been doing lots of interviews about his new book. People ask the standard questions. I don't ask the standard questions. I want to go deeper. I want to surprise him, me, and you. So without further ado, Karl, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's really an honor to be on your show. I know you've had quite a list of guests over all the episodes, so to be added to the roster of your guest list is quite an honor. Thank you for having me on, Joe.
Of course. Well, we have one thing in common. We have several things in common, actually, but one big one. You're from Ohio. You're
Yes.
a Buckeye. I'm from Ohio. We Buckeyes have to support each other.
Yeah. We didn't grow up too far from each other in northeastern Ohio, blue collar country.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I learned how to work at an early age and I just applied it to writing and speaking and everything else I do. That's one reason I have so many products done at this point. But let's talk about you. True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. Congratulations on your book. It's a fascinating read. I read the whole thing. I went through, made notes, had some questions and all of that. But let's start with what prompted you to write this book?
Well, first of all, thank you for being kind enough and blessing me with writing a testimonial on the back of the book. I really, truly appreciate that. Wow, boy, well, you got a couple hours. Actually, it does go back a long way. You and I are close in age. I'm a little bit older than you, but I went through the hippie era and I finally started to wonder, well, there's got to be something better than this that I'm seeing in the world. And I grasped on to Norman Vincent Peale's The Power of Positive Thinking. I mean, I
saw that in the book. Yeah, I saw that in your book, that was a turning point.
Yeah, it was. And I fell into what I call the three Ps: positive, possibility, power thinking. And I read all of those all of those authors, back then. Actually, Dr. Robert Schuller, who was a Christian TV minister, but he spoke mainly positive thinking, was a big influence on me. On and on and on, all those things. Of course, Think and Grow Rich with Napoleon Hill, huge influence. And so I latched on to that, and eventually, and we may talk about this later, I went through a gargantuan year of running and things, but I made a commitment to awaken myself to a higher level of understanding, because I saw all the drama and trauma and craziness of the world, which is still there. But I eventually ended up writing a ebook back in 2014 called "The Three Pillars," a simple 3-step process to manifest positive and permanent change. Because I had this epiphany. I had become a certified law of attraction life coach in 2012, thanks to my mentor, Christy Whitman. Beautiful organization. And so and I'm sure you went through this too in the beginning of your understanding of the law of attraction. I could manifest a few things. But, I could manifest $10 here, or, a new job, or whatever, something small and innocuous, but I couldn't do it consistently. And then I looked around, and some of my clients, I started to realize that not very many people were manifesting things consistently in accordance with the rules and the laws of the law of attraction. And I kind of had a slow epiphany. I said, why is this happening? And I came to understand that you have to create a rock solid pillars of your life. There's 3 pillars: mental, physical, and spiritual in your life. And that holds up your quote house, your life. And I looked at particular high profile individuals, not to pick on them, but politicians and movie stars, et cetera. And we think they had the beautiful ultimate life, and all of a sudden their whole house came crashing down into dust. And we've seen this over and over, and we see it on the news every day. And I finally came to realize that these people, and this included myself, that they probably had some cracks in those pillars. And if you have a crack in your pillar, your whole house, your life stands on shaky ground. And I came to understand that as a spiritual student, I understood that you have to walk in the integrity, upright in the integrity of universal laws of oneness, love, and truth. And when you do this in that beautiful symbiotic relationship, that dance with the law of attraction, then you become a consistent co-creator with the universe. You can start to bring things on a regular basis into your life, but you have to do it with the integrity of universal laws of love, oneness, and truth. Any other way, you get the cracks in the pillars, and eventually your entire building, your life, can come crashing down. And that's what brought me around. That 3 Pillars book, that ebook, led me finally to write a full-length book, a treatise on the whole thing, so that I could explain and explore it more.
And you've done fantastic to do that. So thanks for sharing the background. I can't help but wonder, what have you manifested? You've obviously manifested the book. And what have you manifested besides the marathons? We're going to talk about that in a little bit. But what did you start manifesting on a more reliable, consistent basis? Because you brought up the insight that you were able to manifest some little things, and you've also heard that some people are doing the same thing. They watch the movie The Secret, they read a law of attraction book or a self-help book, or even Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, and suddenly they can do a few things, but they can't do bigger things. With your new understanding, I love the phrase you said, slow epiphany. That was kind of cute. Slow epiphany.
Yeah.
That hatched for you and opened up. What were you able to manifest after that might be noteworthy for us?
Well, and that's a great question. And again, as far as epiphany, I mean, some people have like a blinding flash of light. Mine just occurred over a period of time. For me, I mean, people immediately think that, I'm going to manifest money, and a new car and a new girlfriend. And, I sure had my share of manifestations of money and that type of thing. And being a wild and crazy bachelor, of course, let's get a new girlfriend. So, but for me, it was interesting because, again, I'll use the term slow epiphany. This is a slow unfolding of consistency. I gain more and more and more peace in my personal being and less and less and less judgment. And also, I combine that with forgiveness. And this again comes from my spiritual studies, along with the understanding of how this law of the universe, called the law of attraction, works. And really, that's what I've done. And I've been in a place the last few years of peace like I have never known it before. I've started a Power of Eight, a Facebook healing group based on Lynn McTaggart's book, The Power of Eight, where people come to, eight or more people come together virtually or live to heal a person, place, or thing. And I have over 900 members globally in this group now, and I'm the facilitator. And just simply doing that, giving, it comes back to you. There's something called the rebound effect. As you give, so shall you receive back. And of course, that can be good or bad. It's just like the law of attraction works. What you think and dwell upon, be it good or bad, more will be sent to you. So for me, the consistent manifestation has been peace, not only health-wise, mentally, but even relationally. And who doesn't want that?
Right. Well, actually, I think that's what we're all going for. When we say we want a house or a car or a relationship or fill in the blank, whatever the goal is, the intention is, it's because we think it's going to bring us some sort of peace. It's going to bring us some sort of serenity, some sort of happiness.
Yeah.
And actually, in my view, the shortcut to manifestation is to be happy now. If you can be complete in the moment and find your serenity where you're at, then you can look out there and say, well, I'm good, but it'd be cool if I had the relationship or the car. And you can actually manifest it faster because the hidden desperation feelings aren't there.
Yeah.
But that's my take. And I don't want this to make this about me. It's about you. I need to ask for a couple definitions, because my job is to imagine what the people watching or listening or would ask you if they were sitting down having a beer or coffee with you. So one of the things would be, what's a definition of the law of attraction? When somebody says to you, you're into the law of attraction, what in the world does that mean? What's your definition?
Well, and I can't say that my definition is any different than you've heard. I mean, the classic basic definition is that which you think and dwell upon, more is delivered to you, be it good or bad. Law of attraction is completely objective. But I always go back to the fact, because most people really don't understand this, that everything is energy. And I even write about this in my book. If you went to the most basic form of it and took a powerful electron microscope and took it down to the on top of the table in front of you and took it down to the atomic level, what would you see? A mass of vibrating atoms. If you took that same a microscope and put your hand under it and took it down to the atomic level, what are you going to see? The same thing, a mass of vibrating atoms. So you have to understand that everything is energy, everything is connected. And when you understand this, then you get a better grip on how to work with the law of attraction in conjunction, as I like to say, a beautiful symbiotic dance. And the world is based on this 3D egoic thought that we're all separate and we're all individual. Yes, we're individual characters and beings, but there is no disconnection. Everything is connected. Quantum physics is showing this. I mean, definitively, that everything is connected. Again, speaking of Lynn McTaggart, she has a beautiful book called The Field. Greg Braden talks about the divine matrix. Everything is connected. And this goes back to why when what you give comes back to you, if everything is connected, how can it not be that way? So the law of attraction, to me, you can think of it with simplicity, like attracts like. But, human 3D thought systems can make it a little bit more complex, too complex.
I actually love your definition, and I love that you broke it down to the molecular and the energy level, because in my mind, I can start to picture that the desk, the chair, everything, and even me is all made up of this energy, and as well as you. And with some techniques like the power of intention and visualization, we can direct that energy. That's what I think is a big clue. Now, I have to also play the devil's advocate here and also ask some of the skeptical questions. What about the people who say, okay, the law of attraction means that whatever I'm focusing on with energy and all this kind of stuff I'm getting obsessed with is going to come to me? Well, I've been focused on money. I've been focused on women. Where are the women? Where's the money? I've been focused on cars. Where's the cars? What do you say to those skeptics who say that doesn't work because I've been thinking about money?
Yeah, and this is a question I hear over and over again. My
Yeah.
answer: folks are trying too hard. I have a training buddy that I've run with over the years. We've trained for marathons together, and she owns her own advertising agency here in Ohio, and loves a good life. And one day she said to me, Carl, I want what I want, and I want it now. And talk about resistance. You're literally creating energetic resistance, because I want this, but you're not willing to, like the law of allowing, you're not willing to allow the universe to deliver to you in the best way, at the right time, in the right way for you, for the good of all involved. And so this is one of the things. A lot of people look at the law of attraction. Now, I've heard criticisms of this even from some of my spiritual colleagues. People look at the law of attraction like an Amazon delivery truck.
Right.
I want this. I want a new guitar for Joe Vitale, and I want it to be purple, and send it to him right now.
Right.
It
Well,
might show up. Be careful. It might show up at your door.
I'm ready to allow it. I will accept it. I will receive it. Well, there's different layers to that we would have to unpack at some point.
Mhm.
But the other part of this that I want to ask about is because your book is called True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. So you've given us a working definition for the law of attraction, but I need one for spirituality, and I'll tell you why. That is the thing a lot of people don't have a clue means. They don't know what that means. I remember that Gene Simmons from Kiss said, I'm not into spirituality because I have never heard anybody ever give me a definition of what it is that made any sense.
Mhm. Mhm.
What is your definition? You put it right in your title, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. What is spirituality?
Yeah, and an important question to ask, because um, the world, the way the world in our 3D egoic world looks at spirituality. I even had a reviewer write my book, and they kind of really didn't read my book, and said this: oh, this is just a regurgitation. It's got a bunch of Jesus crap in it. And so they confuse spirituality, true spirituality, with religion. Now, I can say true spirituality, which I call non-dualistic spirituality. It's in the realm of the oneness of all that is, where there is no sin, no death, no attack, no lack, no judgment, on and on and on. And so when you go back to that, there is no attack. And so this is one thing you have to remember. It's spirituality. True spirituality has nothing to do with religion. It's about connecting yourself to all that is, whether you call it God or Allah or universe or source or all that is. This is about joining back to your source, your oneness, and remembering your own divine creation, your own divine being that you are. And when you do this, well, and my friend Christy Whitman talks about the law of sufficiency and abundancy, and that is knowing that all that you need is already here. But you can't do that within the 3D realm of the way the world practices spirituality. There's that two ends of the stick. True spirituality is all oneness and togetherness, unconditional love. And that's really foreign to most of the people, the 8 billion people in the world. But that's why we're here, to help people understand. That's why I wrote this book.
This is beautiful. So let's see if we can draw a connection here. You said the law of attraction, when you break it all down, where all energy and the molecular structure of the car and the guitar that's coming to me, the purple one, is all energy that's vibrating and so forth. Is that energy field spirituality? Is that moving spirituality, or is spirituality even deeper than that energy field? And I'm asking this question on the fly. I mean, I'm just listening to you, piecing this together and going, well, that's kind of interesting. Is the energy field that we are arising from, and we're 3D reality because we're kind of like a 3D printer made us, is the energy field the spirituality you're referring to?
Oh man, that's a deep question, and I
Yeah.
like it. That's a juicy question. You see,
What's the answer?
I'm going to surprise the guests with these questions. In my opinion, as a spiritual student and seeker and teacher and lover of truth, I'd say yes, it is. The energy field is true spirituality. I mean,
Mhm.
if there is only all that is in infinity, if I can spit it
Mhm.
out, infinity,
Mhm.
how can there how can it be separate? There is no separation of anything, energy at all.
Mhm.
There's no separation of humans or whatever it is. There's a field of energy that is based on the pure unconditional love of source of all that is. And
Mm.
that's why we can, at any time we desire, dive into it.
And if that is also the case, by extension, isn't that the reason why we don't have any limits? I mean, this show is called Zero Limits
Yes.
Living. As we're thinking and being right here, we think in terms of limits because we think in terms of what we've done in the past, what we've seen other people do. So we're looking at the other 3D characters around us and saying, well, I can't do it because they can't do it. But if we jump into the nature of your book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, we jump into that and now we deep dive and we're in the energy field.
Mhm.
Doesn't it make sense? And I'm asking it as a question. I'm exploring it with you out loud. Doesn't it make sense that anything is possible when we go into the source, the energy field, instead of listening to the limitations that are in 3D current reality, but we go into source, there aren't any limits there.
You know, this
Correct? I mean,
this reminds me of my old radio days. That was a beautiful segue, Joe. Right into that. Yes, it does. There really we can dive deep into it, and there it is. And again, many people might say, "Well, this is just Carl's opinion. This is just Joe's opinion." I mean, it is impossible to separate anything, and
mhm.
so we are here within all that is, and I'm not even sure if I can answer. I think in many ways you answered your own question with your own with your statement there. Yeah,
Well,
beautiful.
I might have because that's how my brain is thinking. I'm going in that direction as a seeker myself. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I'm even doing the show and it's called Zero Limits Living. It's an exploration of any limits. Do we have any real limits? And I always ask my guests, do we have any limits? Most of them say no, or one of them said there's only one limit. That's your imagination. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking that, well, if we go into the sea of all possibilities, I think Deepak Chopra calls it the field of all possibilities,
Yes.
nothing but an energy field there, and we leave our limitation mind out of it, then isn't anything possible? I mean, maybe this is rhetorical. You can leave, Carl. I'm just going to talk. I'm just forget.
No,
Hey,
no,
but all
really.
kidding aside, let's make it even more real for people. Let's
Mhm.
imagine there's somebody watching. They've gone through COVID. You, I, we've all been wounded because of this thing that affected the planet, and so they got hope because they're watching this show,
Mhm.
and they're thinking, all right. Karl Gruber has written a book, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. It sounds like there's promise here. What would be the steps they would take to either get a job, transform their life, pull in some money, do something to get out of the muck and the darkness that COVID brought to us? What would be your steps?
Yeah, we are definitely coming out of a unique time in human history, and it almost seems on a daily basis this is getting even more and more weird, almost like the city of Austin. Keep Austin weird.
Right, right, right.
But the steps are you have to pick yourself up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And the best advice Spirit ever gave me, being a runner, I've fallen down many times running. And Spirit says, Carl, get up, brush yourself off, keep moving forward, and don't look back. And this is how you have to do that, because we all of our thoughts are based on past experience when there's only now. And so if you've had a bad experience, say during the pandemic, and if you keep dwelling there, like law of attraction, if you keep dwelling your thoughts there, oh my God, the pandemic was so hard on me, I lost my job, and you keep bringing that same energy in, you have to leave it back there, move forward, don't look back. And put those new goals and those new dreams and those new things you would like to manifest in your life, and like a job. Obviously, many people lost their jobs during the time, and you
Mhm.
have to combine it with faith and trust. There's two very interesting things that most of the people in the world, they hear it, faith and trust. What's that? They don't practice it, but you have to, because then by having faith and trust, looking forward, combining your positive thoughts, the thoughts of what you really do want, and leaving all the crap behind you, then the law of attraction, true spirituality is going to be sent to you. It does work. It's a formula that works. Walking in the upright integrity with the universal laws of love and oneness.
And what about you? You mentioned that faith and hope and trust and everything. A lot of people lost their faith.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you reawaken faith? And I mean, this is a very essential question because I know the power of it. But during that same time, COVID, I was going through a divorce. I was going through the loss of my parents. I was going through family member attempting suicide. There was a lot there that shook me. And I'm a guy who's been preaching this for decades and written 80 books about this. What about the average person out there who may not have had the resources you or I or the experience, and they've been shaken? And maybe again, they have hope. They're listening to you right now. They're going to go get your book, but they're feeling like, where's my faith?
Mm-hmm.
How do I get through the day? How do they reawaken faith?
And I think the first thing that somebody like that has to look at is, what's the alternative? Staying in this dark, low vibrating, negative place that is only disempowering and destructive. And I mean, there are people who stay there their whole life, and unfortunately, they never see the light of that. But if you at least are watching this program and hearing what Joe and I are saying here, you can grab onto this and say, you know what? I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay in this crummy place where I'm ill and poor and feeling disempowered. So you, through your faith and your trust and understanding of these laws we're talking about, grab a hold of it, pull yourself up almost like a ladder. One of my favorite analogies is, we've all seen the sine wave of frequency of energy,
Mhm.
or whether it's radio waves or whatever. So when there's a peak, and then you come down in a valley, a peak in the valley. And the idea is, once you grab a hold of this, to pull yourself up to the peak and stay there. Now, even if you're a guru on top of a mountain, even those guys come down into the valley where they're not feeling well, they're not in alignment. But the understanding that you have the choice, the free will to choose to pull yourself back up to the peak, is something that most people don't know they have that choice. So if you find yourself, and believe me, I mean, there are days where I'm so grumpy I can't even stand myself, but I have the knowledge to say, you know what, I don't like where I'm at. And I've heard you say this on many of your social media broadcasts. Choose to feel better. Make the point. There's something, a law of attraction process called pivoting. And on the spot, if you catch yourself saying something negative or thinking something disempowering, say, I don't like that. I choose a better thought. And you can consciously, because you now understand the process and that you have the free will and the power, the individual power to do that. And you tend to get back up to that peak of that frequency wave, and you stay at the peak for longer and longer and longer periods of time. I think that is one process that people can use.
And I love how you began it because you said, what's the alternative? It's basically, and that can jar people right there if they feel like they've lost their faith. It's like, well, what's the alternative? Is not moving to your faith. What's the other? That's being a victim. That's
Mhm.
giving up. That's rolling over. That's dying while you're still alive. So it's more logical, of course, to choose faith and go in that direction. And what I've learned is that as soon as you choose faith and walk in faith, even when there's no evidence around you that things are going to change, things do begin to change
Yeah.
because you began the walk. That's what I find so fascinating. So I love all of that. So here's something I know you've been itching to talk about. And it's your big example of miracles in your life, and you talk about it in the book. I did not know until you told me a few hours ago that You ran 52 marathons in a year, basically one a week. Is
Mhm.
that correct?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I didn't say I was sane, but I did it for a good reason. It was 25 years ago. I was a little bit younger, a little bit faster, but 19 from May 5th, 1996 to April 27th, 1997, I did run 126.2 mile, 42.2 kilometer race per week. And I did it with a purpose. I was in the throes of my three P's, the positive, possibility, power thinking. Never heard of the law of attraction, although it was impossible not to practice it. And
Mhm.
I was a wild and crazy disc jockey at K95 FM in Lancaster, Ohio for 16 years. And I had a beautiful home. And I started to think, what can I do to make this world a better place? And talk
Mm.
about winging it. I didn't even know that there had been a few people ahead of me who had done it. I just came up with this idea. I know I'm going to run a marathon a week to raise money for leukemia because I knew a little boy, Glenn Miller Jr. of Logan, Ohio, who had died from leukemia. He was only
Mm.
6 when he passed away. And so that's what shook me up. I said, what can I do as an individual to do this? And so my personal motto has become ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things.
Yeah.
And how that came about is I've never been a real fast runner, compared to many people. I never won any races or anything, but I just believed. I knew I had the endurance that I could do that. And so I grabbed a hold of what I knew how to do to become an extraordinary runner by running 26.2 miles once a week. It was a hell of a year. I traveled 125,000 miles by myself in one year, 65,000 miles driving, 60,000 flying. Went out. Talk about faith and trust. I didn't nearly have enough money to do it, but I went out in blind faith, and week after week after week after week, the money I needed showed up. On top of that, I raised tens of thousands of dollars for leukemia research on top of it. I wrote a book about it, and this is years ago, Running for Their Lives. If anybody wants to,
Wow.
it's not a literary masterpiece, but it's about my running a marathon a week for a year. So it goes in conjunction when I did start to learn about the law of attraction, and I heard Abraham through Louise Hicks come out and say, there's nothing that you cannot be, do, or have. And I want people to understand, just like Joe's doing here, there are zero limits to your living. Believe you can do it. Have faith and trust. And if you're going to run a marathon a week, I suggest you train a little bit too. But you could be making quilts to honor war victims, and
Mhm.
whatever it is, whatever your ability it is, you can do it. You can go beyond the ordinary. If ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things, what that really means, Joe, is we're all extraordinary.
Yeah. Oh, what a great story. It raises a few questions that would help me unpack this and understand it a little better. First of all, you said you got the idea to do this. Where do you think that idea came from?
Well, that's because I was ready. I had been opening up my mind and my heart to source, to understanding there that, like I said, the big question, there's got to be something better than that. And so through my studies of Norman Vincent Peale and
Mhm.
Napoleon Hill and all of those beautiful people, I was ready. At that point in my life, I I
I,
wasn't even
I,
sure if I was
I'm
praying or not. I said, send me something to do.
so you were praying, you were asking for some sort of insight, some sort of guidance.
And of course, it came to me on a morning run. I know I'll run 52 marathons in 52 weeks. I'm just, wait, what is that?
Okay, that was my first question about where the idea come from, because I do believe the ideas we received are actually gifts from the
Yes.
divine, from God, from the cosmos, from source. They're gifts to us. Most people don't think of it that way. Most people even dismiss the ideas, but the ideas come and they're coming from a kind of a holy source. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, and I think you answered it, were you already running? Were you a long distance runner or a neighborhood runner? What were you doing?
Yeah, I was running on a daily basis. At that point, I had run only 9 marathons. Now I've run a total of 78. I just crammed up 52 in one year. So I knew I could do it, but like I said, I mean, it was blind faith, and I could even say ignorance was bliss, because I had no idea what I was in for.
You
But
know, Mark Twain said, "Ignorance plus confidence will equal success." So sometimes you can achieve things when you don't have any clue that you're not supposed to do it or nobody else has, and then you have the confidence to do it, and you can actually succeed. The other thing is, did you quit work? So
I did. I
you
did.
did. So you were able to take a year off?
I was a disc jockey at a radio station, copywriter like you,
Yeah.
production director, DJ for 16 years, and I knew there was no way that I could work and do this.
Yeah.
So thank God I owned a home at the time. It's called Equity Line of Credit, that helped me get through. But I rented my house out for the whole year. Sent my dog, my golden retriever Bo, off to live with my parents,
Ah.
and put the ignition key in my car and headed to Cleveland for my
Wait,
very first marathon.
and how much time was there between you receiving the information to go ahead and do this once a week marathon thing and actually doing the first one? How
Yeah,
much time?
yeah, that's a great question too, because yeah, it definitely took some preparation. I got the inspiration sometime in early '95, and
Mhm.
I was on the phone, and there were no cell phones, everything, faxing and
Yeah.
all kinds of things. Uh, there was no even email; it was just starting.
Yeah.
And I did preparations and got sponsorships and things like that. I was sponsored by a couple companies. It was just enough to buy gas and things like that. Yeah, there was a lot of preparation to go through it. And then I finally made the commitment. I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. And I announced to the radio station, see you guys.
Wow. So, more questions about this because I'm personally fascinated, and I'm hoping everybody watching or listening to this are seeing the elements of a miracle.
Mhm.
These are the things that you could copy, not necessarily running marathons, but you apply these principles, what he's talking about, to whatever it is that you want to achieve. Even you stepped out or ran out in faith to be able to do all of this. I haven't done any running in many decades, but I used to do some. And I know that one of the things that went on, it was kind of a meditation because when you're running, it's solo for the most part, and you're just you, your thoughts, and the world. What were you thinking about? 52 marathons. That's a whole lot of soul searching and deep diving in your own brain.
Well,
What did you spend your time thinking about?
yeah, well, this sounds silly, but it's not. I said, where the heck is the finish line, and
Right?
is there War
Right?
and Peace at the finish line? Because you burn approximately 100 calories per mile running, and every week I'm burning 26 to 30,000 calories on one run. So most of the time, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm not sure where it even came from, but I just have this doggone faith and belief that I can do it.
Mhm.
And anybody who's run a marathon knows it ain't easy.
Right.
And I'll get to mile 21, and knowing I already ran 30 marathons in the previous week or whatever, I said, darn it, I'm going to do this. I am going to do this. I'm not stopping. Darn it, I am going to do this. And there's a lot of merit to that. That again puts out the energy to the universe.
Mhm.
Universe co-conspires with you and gets your legs moving. In my case, being a runner, and gets
Mhm.
There's I call my spirit guides my team Karl, and I'm sure they were there
Yeah.
moving legs for me the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
I believe in guardian angels. I believe that we all have spirit guides. I also believe that most of our guides are unemployed because we don't ask them to do anything.
mm,
And I, for one, every day, when I get in the hot tub, I talk to my guides. I thank them for what I did get, and I make some requests on what I would like to experience. How do you communicate with your team, Carl?
well, this is again, you asked so many beautiful questions. I've started to listen better. I finally realized with my spiritual studies that we are actually being guided and have suggestions from all that is our spirit guides, whatever, our guardian
Yeah.
angels, all of the time. But the problem is the ego is the one that speaks first and the loudest and say, You stupid idiot. What did you do that for? And meanwhile, your guardian angels or your spirit guides are going, Karl, why don't you, you should turn left over here. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
And I don't question it anymore. Okay, this is great. Or one thing I've done too. I mean, here's a real good example. I'm a city driver. I got a heavy foot on the gas pedal. And I used to, people driving slow in front of me, and I'd be going, just, grouching and everything. And I finally said, well, actually, I heard it. It's like, Karl, how do you know that's not an angel up ahead of you driving slow on purpose to keep you safe and get to your spot?
Mm.
And now, whenever I come behind a car driving, like 20 miles under the speed limit, I go, hey, there's an angel in front of me. But I've learned to listen to my soft, beautiful, guiding voice, and it works.
Yeah. There is a line in your book that I thought was incredibly profound, enough that I folded back the page,
Mhm.
stuck in your flyer to where that page was, and I wrote the quote down. And I think this is probably one we could have done a whole show on by itself. But it's in chapter 17, and you say the Latin phrase, and then you have it in Latin, but it translates, do not look outside yourself.
Yeah.
Do not look outside yourself. I'm going to say it one more time because I think it's so powerful. Do not look outside yourself. And
And
now,
that's what
Karl,
my whole book is about, and I
and
stole that from Ralph Waldo Emerson's essay on self-reliance, Nate case of ars extra. So forgive me my Latin, but basically what it does say is exactly what that. Do not look out yourself. Your
but
power.
why? Why? I'm a big fan of Ralph Waldo Emerson. In fact, someday I'll show you. I have an autograph from him.
Oh wow.
Yes, I have his entire library of books. I mean, that's a whole separate subject. I didn't know that's where the phrase came from. But what does it mean? Why not look outside of ourselves? What does it mean to you? What do you think Emerson was referring to?
Well, and it goes back again to, we talked about much of the world has a victim mentality.
Yeah.
It's not my fault, it's your fault. And it's based on that idea of separation from all that is. I'm separate from you. I'm separate from you. Again, within this a realm, this illusion of our bodies, we may seem separate, but it goes back to there is no separation. So
Mm.
how can, if you look outside of yourself, you're literally doing that victim mentality. I want somebody to come over here and save me. The power is within you. That's when you're finding your true divine yourself. We've already talked about this, how
Mhm.
we're connected to all that is.
Mhm.
Going back to the field, the matrix, and everything. If you look outside of yourself, you're literally giving away your own personal power.
Okay, let's make this real because I'm aware of the time and I'm aware of how excited I am to talk to you. And I'm aware that you and I are both just kind of flying by the seat of our pants and riding the lightning that comes through our souls here. And so, what I want to do is find a way to apply this quote, do not look outside yourself. Okay, there's a woman watching right now, and she has two kids, and she is broke and she's unemployed. She needs to either find work, find money, find a solution, find a man, find something. And she's excited. She's watching you. She's got to go get your book. And, all of this is stirring stuff up in her. And then she hears, do not look outside yourself. She needs a job. She needs money. She's going to look outside. How does she get this to work in a practical, spiritual, applied metaphysics kind of a way?
And wow, boy, yeah, that is a hard question, and for anybody to answer. And I can't say the answer is easy, especially when you're facing that. When
Right.
when you're
Right.
not sure if you're going to have enough food to put on the table for your kids or to pay the rent. But literally, if you don't look outside yourself, and of course, I mean, within our world, there are sources that you can find some help, but the answer is going to be within you because you are a divine, powerful being. And if you can at least see a flicker of light within your own mind that, like me when I was running, maybe I can do this.
Right.
Maybe I can do this. And so, using the law of attraction, sure, we have to allow things to come to us and allow the universe to orchestrate things in the right manner, in the right way. but you really truly have to grab onto that inherent flicker of light and know that you really can do it. It may not be easy, especially at first. It may take a while, but you have to tune into the frequency. I mean, I think I even write about this in this, and you can understand this old-fashioned radio dial, where you had 89.7 at one end and
Right.
107.9 here. And the only way to go from 89.7 to 107.9 was this great big knob that you had to turn like this slowly, slowly, slowly. And finally, you would get to that frequency you want. This is how you move your energy. Again, all the way there. And even when you found 107.9, you still had to fine tune it. You had to fine tune it. So this is what you have to do with your own energy and your faith. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I mean, it may not be easy, but if you can at least open your heart and mind to these principles of walking in integrity with true spiritual truth and the way the law of attraction works, I think you may find yourself be surprised that you don't have to look out yourself. The answer is within you.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. In the very, very short time that we have left, and I know you and I are going to get off this call, and we're both going to be regretting things. We're going to say, why didn't I ask that? And you'll say, why didn't I say this?
Yeah.
I understand all of that, but we have a limited amount of time. One of the important concepts in your book is about forgiveness. And we both know that that's kind of a key to unlock blocks to making the law of attraction work. It's kind of a key to reconnect to true spirituality. But how do we forgive? How do we forgive either ourselves for doing something we thought was wrong, or how do we forgive others who we may be holding a grudge with? Why is forgiveness important, and how the hell do we get past it?
And this is a huge question
Right.
for all of humanity, because the way the world practices forgiveness is really based on retribution and inequality. So if somebody say beat you up and finally you come to a point where you say, well, I forgive you, and you're in court and they're about to be sentenced. But in truth, the way the world practices, you're up here and you're looking down. I forgive you. There's no equality there. There's still some form of grudge in your being held somewhere. And that is a low vibrating, disempowering energy that will keep you in this negative place. And this is why we see so many people who manifest illness in their body from the stress of unforgiveness. And many, many times, many stories I've read and known people who finally say they had a unforgiveness of a parent that for decades, and they finally forgave them, and all of a sudden, much of the bad things in their life disappeared.
Yeah.
So that's the way the world practices it, based on retribution and inequality. If you practice true spiritual, what I call quantum forgiveness, it's based on equality. Again, it goes back to the fact that everything is connected. Everything is one. There is no separation. So, and that which you give comes back to you. So if you practice the worldly forgiveness, it comes back to you because you're still holding a grudge. You're still holding thoughts of retribution and anger. So in true forgiveness, you literally let it go. You are now equal with this person who forgives. You have forgiven, truly forgiven. I call it the keystone of your entire building, your whole life. Yeah. And by doing so, there will be none of that negative, disempowering energy in your life. And it's the only way to go. Again, another thing that it's going to take a little while to practice and understand. But I can tell you some things that I have forgiven in my life in a true spiritual manner. It's almost like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders, and it is doable, but you have to go back to true spirituality, the understanding of unconditional love, where there is no lack, attack, or judgment. And this is what true quantum forgiveness is based on.
This is fascinating, and I totally agree about forgiveness. It's crucial. Um, I know your website is called karlgruberlifecoach.com, karlgruberlifecoach.com. Are you still taking clients? Are you still coaching?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I love
Okay.
doing I love working one-on-one with people or groups. I know you do so many beautiful programs. I'm not quite at the level you are, but you're one of my inspirations, and I
Oh,
appreciate it. And Carl is spelled with a K.
yes. Yeah. Carl. And it's well, your book is The True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction. And it's on Amazon and all those good places, correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
your
if you
running
want to
book
know
is
about
up there
52
somewhere.
marathons.
Yes. Yes. I want to get your running book next. The in our final minute or two that we have here before Chris pulls the plug on us and kicks us out. First question, and you can give me a short answer to it if you like, or lengthy if you like. Do we have any limits? Shows Zero Limits Living. Do we have any limits?
Well, and it's interesting. I talk about my 52 being able to run
Yeah.
52 marathons in 52 weeks. And some people may say, oh, he's just trying to show off. He's, oh man, I did this big thing. But no, it's exactly that. There are no limits. And it's the classic line, all limitations are in our mind.
Yeah.
And the mind directs the body. And that's how I got through 52 marathons, in a week. And amazing. You and I have both lived amazing lives and done some things where you had to go beyond any perceived limits. I mean, you pulled yourself from your up by your shoestrings out of the gutter and became the beautiful person you are. So no, there are absolutely no limits. Ordinary people can accomplish extraordinary things.
That's quotable right there. Okay. What would you say is the most important thing that people need to take away from this conversation? There's so much in your book. We want them to go get it, True Spirituality and the Law of Attraction, and they can go to your website and check out you and your work and hire you if they want to coach. But right now, what is the takeaway? What is the thought? What is the quote? What is the to do? What is what you think is the most important thing they need to have right now that you can give them?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't let yourself get sucked down the sewer hole. Actually, I should say, of what you perceive that you're seeing in the world. Turn off the media. Turn off the news. I mean, every day. I mean, it's not like my head is in the sand. I mean, I know what's going on in the world, but you don't have to stay there. It's literally programming, and it's programming on what you call it, hypnotic
Right.
copywriting, in a certain
Right.
extent. Yeah, it is that, but you have to let go of the crap you see in the world, and pull yourself within your own divine being. And remember, don't look outside yourself. There is power within you that you haven't even tapped. I mean, even the stuff that I've done, I mean, gosh, I probably hit 10% of what I'm really capable of.
Yeah. And I barely scratched the surface, believe it or not, with me. There's so much more.
Oh
Well,
man.
Karl Gruber, you are a delight. You are a spiritual light worker. I am so glad to know you. And I can't wait to be in Ohio and split a pizza or whatever we eat when we
I'm
are
there.
together and tell yarns about our lives. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been watching Zero Limits Living. Every week, I bring you inspiration and information to help transform your life. I'm putting this show on one place, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. You can watch it on Amazon, Apple, YouTube, Roku, but go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com to see all the episodes in one spot. Check out Miracles Coaching. It's the program I started. It's a system that works, miraclescoaching.com. Check out my new program, mentaltimetravelsystem.com. Meanwhile, I want to thank Lux Media Studios, Candace Barr, Chris, who's running the equipment today for us. And I want to thank you for watching. You are the ones who are creating a new peace on earth. Thank you and expect miracles.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NASET. NASET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.